Welcome to the Impact Report Designer webinar, where what we will be showing today is our wizards. So here is Impact Report Designer running from the icon on the desktop. At the top we have New and Wizard button. Both of these get us to new reports. One walks through a wizard, and the other one, of course, creates a new one without the wizard. So let's step into the wizard. Wizard is a couple panel wizard. It's going to tell us on the startup screen what it's going to ask us for. So let's just click on the next button and select the data type source and the report style. So we have, of course, the data is the report tables from the ACT database. So we have, activity, company, contact, the core tables that are in ACT, and you also see custom tables are in here too. So we can see we have automobiles, we have service calls. These are custom tables that are added into the database. So we're going to just work on the contact table at the moment. So what I want to do here is now look at which type of report we have. So we're actually going to do a one-to-many group report. By selecting the one-to-many group report, we have the subgroups of the group report. So a group report is like, I want to see all the activities for the contacts. And down here we see the sub table that we can use, and let's just use activity. So I'm just going to highlight activity and I'm going to add it. So it sees it builds the tree for us, the contact into the activity. So this can be more than one. I can add my automobile. So I can actually have a contact report with all the activities and all the entries from the custom table automobiles in there. But for the purpose of this demo, let's just use one at a time. So we're just going to remove that one. I'm going to click on the next button. And what it's doing now is it's asking us for which default fields we want to add on to the report. Since this is the contact table, it pre-filled in here the contact, city, state, zip. But I can select additional fields, like I may want the ID status field inside of here, or any other fields, we can add those into it. And this is the contact table. So let's go to the next button. Now we're on the activity table. So this is our first sub-child table. Again, since the activity table is a known table in the ACT, we're actually pulling in some fields for the table. Organizer, activity priority type, as you can say. So let me actually just do this. I'm just going to remove a few of them in here. And I really want just the organizer, priority to type, regarding, and this start. Again, for purposes of this report. So we're just going to go down here to our next button. It's going to ask us for a report name. So I'll say my demo report, we'll call it. At this moment, we can select the orientation that we want to set to, portrait or landscape. We can set the style. We have a basic and colorful. It's just that. We added some more vibrant colors to different things. Scripting language, Visual Basic, C#, and JScript. This is scripting language for advanced functionality. If you want to run custom scripts, you can choose your languages this time. Category, author, and description. These are all unique to this file, to this report. And these can be changed at any time in the future. So I'm just going to leave it in the contact category. Author is, I'm just going to say it's Chris Huffman. That's how I logged onto the ACT database as Chris. So it brought up my name. And description, I'll just say webinar demo report. Okay, then once we fill that in, we'll go next. And it's now saying the report is ready. So I clicked on the finish button. And what it's doing now is it's generating that report under the hood, and it's going to bring it forward in a second. Okay, here it is. It opened up the reports for us. And what we're seeing is our report interface. Here's our representation of our page layout. So we can see it says My Demo Report, which is what we called it. We have the contact band. So here's the contact header band, which is showing us labels or the headers of all these fields. And these are fields from the detail band. Again, these are fields that were on that wizard. So I had actually added ID status, and here's our ID status field. Then the next child table, or the first child table we did in this report, was the activity table, and we selected these 5 fields. So there's a header here, and there's the corresponding data. Again, this is a representation of the report. We can alter it, modify it, do whatever we want with it. The wizard just brings all those pieces together and puts it down into the interface for us. If I want to preview this report at the moment, I can say run the report. It's going to ask us to save changes. And the run report brings forward the report criteria builder window. This report criteria builder allows us to set down, like, I want only contacts in the state of New Jersey where the activity is in the last 90 days. So this is the report builder window. There's actually a quicker way to view these reports. That's without having any report criteria, and that's what this tab up here at the top is, page layout. The page layout runs the report without any filter conditions and brings all that information into this kind of preview mode here. So here we are, we're looking at that report. So that quickly, just by walking through that wizard, selecting the fields that I want to see on the report, I now have a full-fledged running report. We have report mapping over here, which is bookmarking. So if I wanted to jump down and see Jim Curtis's information, I can jump down. I don't have to scroll down. He happens to actually be on page 53 of 85. That would be really hard if we had to scroll through each one and find him, and that's what the bookmarking is for. So I want to go down to Rose, and here's Rose's information. Okay, that's on the page layout tab. The wizard tab, just to round out the top 3, gives us a visual representation of what we selected through that wizard. So we have the contact table and the activity table. So say if we come along here and the end user that's running the report says, oh, I also need this field that you forgot to run in, I can come along in here and say, oh, let me add the country field. So we're adding fields post the wizard. What this needs to do, though, is I've added the country field. I need to come back in and add that country field onto the interface. So I may want to remove the ID status field. So I can just highlight that and say delete. And let's go into here and we'll find the country field, and I can add the country field there. I added the country field just above it. Here's the label on the top. I'm just going to double click on here, get to edit mode, and I'm going to change this to country. So there we go. We now have the country field in here. And again, quickly go to the page layout, and it's going to give us a preview representation of this report. Once we're done with the report, we can, of course, just close it down. Close the report here. It's going to ask us to save changes. Say yes. And now you're back in the Impact Report Designer list of reports. Okay. What I wanted to do is also point out that on your webinar panel on the right-hand side, there is a questions and a chat panel, really questions. If you have any questions during the time, you can just post those questions there. I do have it now on a second monitor, so I will monitor those. And what we're going to do here is just go through a couple of the other ways we can create reports. It's just general information about it. On this list view, this is a list of all reports that are in the system right now, meaning against this database in the ACT 2013 demo database. These will show up in the ACT side of it. If we're in ACT and you have Impact Suite running, oh, I don't have ACT, yeah, there ACT is running. Here we have Impact Suite running inside of ACT. If I go to the reports view in ACT, you're going to see those same reports listed here. So I just created a report called my demo report. There it is inside of here. Demo Chris Huffman webinar demo report. And if I want to run that report, I just click on the run button and it's going to come forward and ask me for the report criteria information. What's nice about having the runtime capabilities in the Impact Suite and the designer is, if you're in a company, a 20 user company, you can have the designer at one admin desktop. He can design the reports and then publish those reports so the 20 end users can run them. They won't need any more knowledge in how to get into ACT and how to go to the report view in ACT. These reports, you can pick and choose which reports appear inside of ACT. So we have all the reports are there, but if I come along into here and I say my demo report here, I'm going to highlight it and I'm going to say design, I'm sorry, not design. I'm going to go to attributes, and attributes here, remember I said you can change the contact name and the description. That's where you do it on the attributes. But we also have a hide. Do not display this in the report runner. So the users won't see this new report. This may be a commission report that you're generating and you have commission totals in here. So of course you don't want everybody in ACT to see those commission totals. So we can hide the report. But then you may have 4 managers on the floor that want to read or want to run that report. So we can say, well, show it, or quote, don't hide it. But then the security needed to run this report, you need to be a manager or an administrator. So I can set this to administrator mode, save those changes, and then when you're inside of ACT, now I'm in ACT as an administrator right now, what it would do is it would come forward and say, when I go to run, it would say you don't have privileges to run this report. So you can publish them, have the reports visible, but have security level on those reports inside of ACT. Okay, let me go back in here. Let me just walk into the new button because we just did one for the wizard. So I'm going to say new. Now, new, my demo report, new. So I'm just giving the report a name, selecting the contact table, and I'm saying OK. Now again, it takes a couple of seconds here the first time to actually build this up. I'll just say no to this. What this did is this created a new report, but as you can see, there's nothing in the detail band. It doesn't know what to do with it. And over here on the contact list, it's showing you every field that is possible here on the contact list. So in here, this case, I have to actually start adding these fields myself. So I want to see the contact name, and I want to see the company. Okay. So again, I can build this report myself. So what is the difference long term if you build them yourself or if you run the wizard? The one big difference for those of you who've done reports know that behind all this interface of report is a big query engine, meaning it's querying the ACT database to get the information into this interface to build the report file. When you don't use the wizard, you can actually get pretty far under the hood with the select statement. Hold on, I just got a message saying my connection was lost here. I think it's back. Okay. Yeah, it's back. So right now what it's doing is this is a select all fields. So that's what the little asterisk is, select all from contacts. So I may not want to select all the fields from contacts. I may just want to select a specific few. So I can come along into here and say select city, select company, select contact, select country. Instead of lifting 100 pounds, now the SQL Server is only going to lift 5 pounds. So we're only asking for 5 fields versus the 500 fields. So this query will run quicker. So you can optimize your queries inside of here. By doing that, by optimizing this query, now that I go back to my columns, as you can see, I only have 4 fields to choose from. Just those ones I selected. So I have the contact field, of course, I can add there. If I need another field from here, I of course have to go back to the query builder and say I need to see the created date of this record. I'll come back over here. Here's my new created date field exposed for me. I can put that on the screen. And then I can go say page layout. This is just some raw data that we're dumping right into the report. Let's go back to the query builder. With this query builder interface, you can start to do conditional things in here and also bridge tables. So say if I wanted the contact and I wanted that activity, or let's just go to automobiles. I want to add the automobile table into here. I just double clicked on it rather than drag it out. I double clicked. And what the report designer is telling us is it understands how ACT builds the table relationships, the inner and the outer joins. We know that because we're connected to the ACT framework. So this interface is saying, hey, do you want a little bit of help here? And I'll add the bridge table. So I'll say okay to that. ACT actually has a bridge table, which is called contact automobile. Contact automobile. So in order to get all the automobiles attached to the contact, there's 3 tables: contact underscore automobiles, and automobiles. And that's what this interface was doing for us, was building that. Now look at the joins that it built down here. Instead of just saying select all from contact, it's been building this join for us here. So let's go in and add some fields again. So we'll say I want all the contacts, and I want to know the automobile, the make, model, manufacturer, and let's just go and run this query. Running the query is a little different than running the report, because when we're in the query builder screen, the query is just in this list view. It brings us right back to this list, and it's showing us the raw data in the list view. Now, if I'm running the query, I'm going to go back and say the columns. Let's remove some of the other information that we had here before, and I'm just going to go on and say I want my contact name here, and I want the make, manufacturer, and the model of those automobiles. They're on my layout. Go to page layout, and here it is. Here's my report of all the automobiles inside of the current database. And again, if I run the report, I can put on conditions of the report. That's not happening in the designer. The designer just page layout runs the entire query. So here it is. I could say show me everywhere where the model of the car equals LT1, and preview that report. And there's all my LT1 Chevys for all the contacts in the database. Okay, let's close that down, and let's close it down, and let's just do a top level. So again, what we were trying to show you this morning was the difference between new and wizards. Creating a report using the wizard gets you there quicker, but it doesn't give you the complete power of editing the SQL statement under the hood. For those of you that really know SQL and are going to go in there and modify the inner and the outer joins, you're going to want to just use the new button to start there, and you're going to need to do a little bit more work in the beginning by building your interface elements up, but long term you're going to have much more power and flexibility over this report. Okay, let's see the questions. Okay. Importing and exporting reports, that was a question, is if you're doing this report in ACT Demo database, how can you export this report to another database? Well, the reports are rather simplistic, meaning they're just a file on the hard drive. If we go to our About button here, and there's a button down here that says Open the Reports folder, and that's on another screen, so let me just bring it back here. That's literally a file. Each one of these reports, like here, let's go to my report. So there's my demo report. It's literally a file right on the hard drive, and on the hard drive it's in the ACT database folder. So this is the ACT supplemental files folder. And if we look at that, people might recognize this. This is where ACT keeps its dashboards and its layouts and its Word templates. Well, we have a folder in here called Durkin, and inside of Durkin we have a folder called Reports, and that's where this is. That's where we keep it. So you can actually just copy this report from this folder to your destination. But if you're doing 4 or 5 of them, or you're sending them to a client via email, we've actually automated that a bit with this import export buttons. So I can just say export, and I can select multiple reports, and I can say export right here, and I'll just dump it on my desktop. And what it's doing is it's grabbing those 5 files and exporting them to a zip file. So I'll say report export in here, and I'll save, and that export is done. And we have now a file on our hard drive that we can email to somebody. And once you email it to them, the opposite is import, and it's going to ask you for that file. It's on the desktop. Report export, and say open. Now those reports are empty in here because it knows you have a report by that name, so it's not going to ask you to immediately overwrite it. And this is up here in the upper right saying show only reports not installed. Well, if I say show all reports, it gives me a list of those 5 or 6 reports that I did select that are in that zip file. So the users may already have a report called activity closed, but you're going to deliver a new report. So we'll select that one, we'll install it. It asks you, do you want to download and override that one that exists? Just say yes, and it's now delivered onto their desktop. Okay. We are planning to have other reports on more detail about the report designer once you get into it. How do you create bands? How do you create groups and subgroups? But that's going to be a much more detailed webinar than this one is today. This one I just wanted to cover the basis of let users be able to go in there, create new reports, create reports with the wizards. So any other questions at this time? Okay, if you have any other questions, or think of one 2 minutes after this is over, you can email support@durkincomputing.com, and we'll be able to answer any ones that you have available. We also are now starting to record these webinars and post-editing. We're going to take out a lot of this script that we're talking, and having these webinars online. So if you go to durkincomputing.com and you click on the video tab at the top, you'll see that we've had 3 or 4 posted so far. Hit videos, and here's some of the videos that you can watch as of today. And a couple of introductions, and these are all the videos that we have in production that we're planning to do over the next couple of weeks. So you're going to see 30 or 40 webinars from us in the end of the summer. Question, can you create a total field? Will we have a more detailed SQL report webinar next Friday? Yeah, I think on next Friday, the detail I'll get to. Next Friday, we have a webinar. Yeah, next Friday at 2 p.m. just on the SQL statements. Last webinar was probably 45 minutes on the SQL statements, and building the bridges and building inner and outer joins from the ground up, as some people know, can be very complex. So we spend at least a half hour just on that in that webinar. Can you create total fields for sales ops for a certain period? Yes, you can do that. On our reporting tool, it's been out 4 or 5 months now, maybe even 6, beginning of the year. We've made this statement that's been true so far. We have not met a report that we cannot do. The complexity of the reports, sometimes it takes us 2, 3, 4 hours to do some more flexible reports, but we can do any report that's required. Again, we haven't met any report that we can't do. I'm just going to show you or leave you with one thing. Like, let's go back to my demo report, and I'm going to go into the designer here. In the designer, there is a lot of graphical interface to say, I want to add grouping, I want to add sorting, I want to add counts. And this interface is very feature rich that way. But if there's something in the interface that is way out of the box that we haven't thought of, that's why we have a scripting language in here. So I can go into this script button here, and actually I can write script. In this case in VB.NET, because that's what I set it to. Remember on our wizard, it was asking a script language. So I can come into here and say, hey, on label number 4 on the before print event, right? I can say if the sender, which is the label, sender dot value is greater than $100, do something. Do something here, and then and if. Right, so for those that you know a little bit of scripting, and for those that are programmers out there, realize how much power this has just given you, that anything that you can think of is now possible with this scripting language inside of it, and this scripting language will run on that label for before print event. Okay, again, I want to thank everybody for coming and hope you have a great weekend. If you have any questions, again, just email me, jim@durkincomputing.com, or any questions on the product, support@durkincomputing.com. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.